that some women rape their husbands. But people will be like, rape husband, what are you talking about? I don't know, there's some women that the husband has been begging her since, let me sleep, she's nothing. The day she now wants money from him, she'll just be so men don't talk a lot.
So you say that's rape?
No, I'm not saying it's rape.
Okay.
But at that point in time, that man feels used.
Really?
Do you get? He feels used. But if in reverse were what happened, she'd be like, he doesn't rate me. He just came, dumped me there and left. But she wanted money. Let me give you something that I would say is normal and natural. A man comes home and tells his wife that in a day I want to make love to you 5 times. That's a natural thing, and I've been waiting.
Okay. I'm waiting.
That's natural because that's the way the man's body. He's not taking anything, but that's the way the man's body works. And it goes also for women. There's some women who are their libido is really high, and they will say, men, in a day, 5 times a day. That's a natural phenomenon. That's something that is natural for the woman, is natural for the man. In that kind of situation, the man or the woman can decide to say, okay, babes, my own body can do twice a day, but because you like 5, can we come to a compromise? That's something normal where you tell the woman or the man to compromise. But if you're talking about, like we're talking about the violent BDSM thing, we're talking about where the guy is saying maybe he's choking her or he's doing something, or it's not normal. It's not normal to her. So it'd be unfair for anybody to come and tell her that because she's married to a man, what is not normal to her. Do you understand? She should bend. No.
We begin this conversation taking our quote from Desmond Mpilo Tutu, who was a South African Anglican bishop and theologian known for his work as an anti-apartheid and human rights activist. He once said, "It is by standing up for the rights of girls and women that we truly measure up as men." Absolutely spot on. My next quote is from Barack Hussein Obama II. He was an American politician, or he is still an American politician, who served as the 44th president of the United States from 2009 to 2017, and he once said, "Together, we can change our culture for the better by ending violence against women and girls. Artists have a huge or unique power to change minds and attitudes and get us thinking and talking about what matters. And all of us in our lives have the power to set an example. Join our campaign to stop this violence." And I agree. Next one is from Samantha Jane Power, who is an American journalist, diplomat, and government official who is currently serving as the administrator of the United States Agency for International Development. She once said, "Violence against women isn't cultural, it is criminal. Equality cannot come eventually. It's something we must fight for now." Because I love that one, I'll take my last one. And this one is from Jeffrey Leon Bridge, who is an American actor. He once said, "It is not enough just to treat women well. We have to work to make sure all men treat women well." Absolutely spot on. I really like this quote that I just took today. Now let's see how this quote will lead to what we will be discussing this morning. Very warm greetings and welcome to the conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Violence against women and girls remain one of the most prevalent and pervasive human rights violations in the world. Globally, an estimated 736 million women, almost 1 in 3, have been subjected to physical and or sexual intimate partner violence, non-partner sexual violence, or even both, at least once in their lifetime. This scourge has intensified in different settings, including the workplace and online spaces, and has been exacerbated by post-pandemic effects, conflict, and climate change. The solution lies in robust responses, including investment in prevention. However, alarmingly, data on how much nations are committing to counteract violence against women and girls remain glaringly sparse. We need more investment in women organizations, better legislations, prosecution of perpetrators, more services for survivors, and training for law enforcement officials. Violence against women and girls remain largely unreported due to the impunity, the silence, the stigma, and shame surrounding it. In general term, it manifests itself in physical, sexual, and psychological forms encompassing 1. Intimate partner violence, that's battering, psychological abuse, marital rape, and femicide. 2. Sexual violence and harassment, that's rape, forced sexual acts, unwanted sexual advances, child sexual abuse, forced marriage, street harassment, stalking, cyber harassment. 3. Human rights or human trafficking, which is slavery, sexual exploitation. And 4. Female genital mutilation and child marriage. That's just to mention a few. To further clarify, the Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women issued by the UN General Assembly in 1993 defines violence against women as, quote, and says, any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering the woman, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in private life. End of quote. Now, the adverse psychological, sexual, and reproductive health consequences of violence against women and girls affect women at all stages of their life. That said, today, Nigeria joins the rest of the world on the 16th day, or to commemorate the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and the annual campaign that begins today, which is the 25th day of November, the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, and ends on International Human Rights Day, that's on 10th of December. We will be having a chat with Esesua Adeyemi, who is a director of business development at Core Academy, and we'll definitely get right into this conversation after this time out. Then we're turning our attentions to women living with disabilities, but then we'll also talk about the men. So, ladies and gentlemen, grab your seats, get your cup of water, or your glass of freshly made juice, or maybe coffee works better for you this early Saturday morning, and let's have this conversation with Esesua Adeyemi. I will see you after this time out. Welcome to The Conversation. My name is Annabelle Oji. Now we'll go straight to our conversation for this morning, and my guest is the beautiful Esesua Adeyemi. She is the Director of Business Development at Core Academy. It's great to have you on the show again, ma'am. Yeah,
it's great to be here again, Annabelle.
You always look good every time.
Well, like I always told you, you're beautiful. So if I'm coming to talk with a beautiful woman, I have to play the part.
But why are you like this? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now let's start first with eliminating violence against women, which it's ongoing. So Nigeria is joining the rest of the world to commemorate this day today, and then the 16 days activism have started already. Yeah. But now let's start by talking about the trying to eliminate violence against women. But before we get there, why exactly do we always have to come to this round table to talk about violence against women, even though we understand that the same violence also happens to men? But why do you think that there's so much attention shifted to talking about the women and the girls?
So, like I always say that I'm always blessed to be opportunity to have the two genders as children, male, female. Now, if I'm going to look at my sons are definitely stronger than my daughter. Body size, weight, strength, being able to fight, and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some families that would have the ladies stronger than the men. But if you look at the statistics, you'll find out that more of the men are stronger than women. A lot of women, very few women go into physical activities that would help them build, their body strength. As you think like this, Annabelle, I can't even fight a fly. Because I was raised as to be a lady. And most girls are being, they're raised, to be ladies. And if they're raised to be a lady, you can't hit a man back. Not that you can't even hit a man, you can't even really hit anybody. I'll give you a typical example. So I remember once while I was in university, this was me now learning to defend myself. Because I remember that last time I was here, I mentioned that my dad tried to raise me, the masculine. So I know one of the things he always said was try to learn to defend yourself. So defending myself would always be don't talk down on me, or maybe if you touch me in a particular way, I would move your hand. But to fight, no. So this particular day, my friend comes and we were like 3 ladies, and he was like, Ceci, you're so different from all the other ladies. And I'm like, what do you mean by I'm so different? And then he says, guys, just watch. So all of us, we stop and then he nudges my other friend, just gives her a push, and she just goes, oh my, stop it. And then he pushes the other person, and she goes, oh my. And then he pushes me, and I just and then he's like, I told you guys she's different. So now that wasn't me being violent or beating him, but it was just me somewhere in my subconsciousness knowing that as a lady, I'm not supposed to really allow anybody maybe hit me or be physical with me. So a lot of women are subconsciously taught to just be the docile, gentle person, and
is that wrong anyways?
It's not wrong, but because we're in a society now where it's getting more glaring, the statistics are higher. In the olden days, men revered their women. That's just the truth. You would I know in some climes, if there was a puddle, the man would take off his jacket and he would put it on that puddle for the woman to walk over the jacket. So these are things that are not happening now. Now, especially, would I say we brought it upon ourselves? So since Beijing conference, when we're talking about equality, we're equals, men now think that, okay, you're equal now. Whatever you can do, right?
Exactly.
Okay, do it. But we still don't have that strength. And because we don't have the strength, and it's not wrong to teach your daughter to be a lady, but it's also right to teach her self-defense. So there are 2 different things. There's violence and there's self-defense.
Self-defense.
So once we start letting girls understand the importance of self-defense, I think it would reduce the numbers of women being abused. Your question was, why is it that they're making so much noise over the woman, right? It's the fact, like I'm still saying, that you still have so many women who don't know how to defend themselves, who don't even understand what violence even means. Now, there's situations where you will hear a woman say if her boyfriend or if her husband doesn't slap her, she doesn't think he loves her. And you're asking yourself, but that's violence. That's not love. But
then do you think that they must have learned that from the upbringing? Probably they see their parents beat each other.
Yes, very true. So there's some children who have grown up always saying their fathers, just hit the mom. And after they hit the mom, maybe the girl is telling the mom, but mom, why did he hit your mama? Why is daddy hitting you? And she's like, daddy love, it's just his love. It's just...
That's how he shows his love.
But, it's not love. It's just violence, you understand? So... I feel we should still speak out more. We should still let the girls know, because whether we like it or not, in a way, not to make it sound not nice, but the woman is still, in terms of strength, the weaker sex. Except she now takes it upon herself to now start going to the gym. She's now building her muscles, She's now getting involved in sports. Karate, you understand? Then at that point, trust me, quite a number of men to a black belted woman, that person is the weaker sex, you understand, to her. But for now, most ladies are not involved in physical things that give them that body strength.
So then that means you have to start from the family, teaching our children, not only girls, but also the boys, that you have to defend yourself. Always be at that should I call it the side where you might need to attack if you have to?
Yes. So if you notice, in I always like to have something to compare with. If you notice, in more developed climes, you see a lot of women going for self-defense classes. We really don't have a lot of that here in Nigeria. That's just the truth. It's only if a woman just decides to say, hey, I just want to learn boxing, maybe for the fun of boxing. you don't really hear a woman saying, I'm going to learn boxing because I want to have a self-defense skill, or I'm going to learn karate, or I'm going to learn judo. You know, you don't. So I feel it should be something that should even be in the school curriculum. You get self-defense, so even for, like you're saying, for the boys and for the girls, because you have some boys who naturally don't have the natural masculine strength or the build. You know, they need to learn also to defend themselves as well. So it's both ways. I always say that with the way the world is going, I don't really think we should still just make it only the woman. With the way the world is going right now, we have to try to strike a balance to also know that, you know what, there's some men out there that also go through this violence because they don't have the same body strength as their contemporaries. So it's female and then those men who don't have that body strength.
Great. All right, so now let's turn our attention to women living with disabilities. It's already a lot to be, I'm trying to manage my word, to actually live in that, be in that part, or probably they're disabled, they can't work, or they're not able to use their eyes very well, or their hands or all, but yet that's already a big deal. Now having to go through violence of any kind, be it sexual, be it domestic violence, how do we deal?
Annabelle, this is a very tough one, because in the first place, right, why would a sane human being who has all his or her body parts all functioning want to inflict harm on someone who has a disability? So for instance, someone cannot see. Why would someone want to be shoving the person around, or someone who can't walk or run away or hitting her? You know, so it's, I feel a lot of evil that occurs in the world today was not really taken care of from the grassroots. And what's my grassroots to home?
Okay.
I would always preach this, that the way a person is brought up is what that person translates in the future. Some people may argue, some people may tell you, but what of a child whose mother and father told him this, told him that? So, you know, it's one thing saying, is another thing doing. You can't be telling a child, oh, don't hit. And then that same child you're saying, don't hit your sister, maybe is seeing the mother hitting the father, not even with the fist, but with the tongue.
Okay.
You know, there's some ways a person will talk. You will prefer they beat you.
Exactly.
You get. And there's a way a husband will talk down to his wife that honestly she will just wish that, you know, this man, you should just have just given me 10 strokes of the cane rather than the kind of words that are coming out of your mouth. So when we talk about violence, it's not only about hitting physically, but even the words that come out from our mouths sometimes are more painful than even the cane. So if we're able to teach our kids empathy, I'm so huge on empathy. When I think before we even get to empathy, I would want to talk about self-love.
Okay.
So I this week I had a conversation with some persons who really did not believe that a word like self-love exists, or that the term self-love even exists. And I tried explaining to them to the point where I had to even just go Google, and I was blessed to see this page that had so much on self-love. And I was telling them that, you know what, I feel we need to learn self-love for ourselves first of all. Once you can love yourself, then you can even teach your children self-love.
Okay.
Because once you understand self-love, one of the benefits of self-love is empathy. If I love myself and I do not want pain to be inflicted on me as a person, why would I want to inflict pain on another person? This morning, before I came into the show, I was telling my son, I was like, I'm going to be, you know, on a show with Annabelle, you know, and I was like, we're talking about happiness. And I was like, growing up as a child, my mother raised us to always be happy, Annabelle. So that whatever situation you find me in, I'm always happy.
Okay.
So if I'm someone who is always happy, don't get me wrong, I have problems, I have things that upset me every now and then, but because my go-to place is happiness.
Okay.
Even when I'm sad or I'm upset or I'm disappointed, I can't stay in that place for too long because my default is happiness.
Okay.
So if my default is being happy, my default is happiness, if my default is love, if my default is everything nice around me, it's really hard, Annabelle, for me to want to inflict pain. And that's why at the beginning of the show, I told you that I can't even fight a fly. Because all that is in my DNA is just love, peace, you know, comfort, happiness. So we need to go back home. We need to talk to our parents. You see, it's one thing having a child, it's another thing parenting this child.
Yeah,
Children need to grow in love. I know people would say the economy is this, the economy is that, the economy is... But at the end of the day, it still comes back to one thing I always believe in, and that's my spirituality. There's a higher being that created me. If that higher being is inflicting pain on me every day, would I live? So why should I inflict pain? Do you understand? On another, how much more somebody who already is battling the disability? Now, what I would love to say to maybe because I know right now, thanks to this government, you know, everybody's been complaining about the not too good things, but I'm noticing that this government is pro helping those that are disabled. I think there's even an essay from the president.
Yes, on that, there's a commission and all.
Yeah, so if they're watching this program, I would love for them to be able to see how they can inculcate trainings or sporting activities for people living with disability to be able to defend themselves. So self-defense programs for them, because it's not about talking. Sometimes we need to do.
All right, so now here you talk about self-love and how much you're able to turn your default or your factory setting to happiness, self-love, peace, and then for that person who is disabled, now speaking specifically about women who are living with disability, who already in their mind, they've gone back to their shell or to their cocoon, and then they keep telling themselves that, okay, it is already worse. Their lives are worse already at the stage that they are because they're living with one disability or the other. And then, because I remember talking to someone, and then she kept complaining of how much this condition has deterred her from reaching her potential or getting to some parts, and then she complains of how much she's trying to get into a particular building, but there are no ramps, there are no access for people with disability to get into that building. So in her mind, she's already saying that most people don't even put people with disability in their mind. We'll get to that. But then talking about people living with disability, how would they actually have self-love for themselves, love themselves first, and realize and understand the fact that despite the fact that they're disabled in one part or the other, in one way or the other, they can still reach their highest potential and still shatter that glass ceiling?
So I'm really grateful that these are not my own words. So these are the words of Helen Keller, and she said that the thing that is worse than someone being blind, one thing that is worse than a person being blind is a person who has sight but has no vision. Now, trust me, there's so many abled persons that cannot do half of what so many disabled persons have been able to do today. And if you look at her quote, she talked about vision. When a person has a vision, no matter the state that person is in, trust me, the person will overcome.
Okay.
Now, if you look at persons like Stevie Wonder, even our own Cobams here, you know, the good thing about is that they've done there's now Olympics for, you know, disabled persons. A lot of these people have visions. They've told themselves, I'll be the best. Don't get me wrong, they've gone through the pain as well. You see, in life, when a person loses something, there will always be that mourning stage. Now, there's some people who were born naturally that way, so they may not have what to compare with. Theirs may be easier than somebody who could see before and cannot see now.
Or had an accident and can walk.
Yeah, so once someone has lost something, there will always be the grieving stage. But the question is, before that grieving stage, who am I, or who is this? Who are you? What is your vision? Now, once a person knows their vision, even if it takes them 200 years to get to the vision, they will get to the vision. But you see, a lot of times, a lot of us, especially in this part of the world, we don't even know why we're here, whether abled or disabled. So for the disabled person listening to us, like we've said, it's not an easy journey. Either whether the person was born with it, or it was something that the person now, by accident or, you know, by any way, just found themselves in it. What I would say is, go through that grieving process. Go through that process where you're upset, you're angry, you're annoyed, but don't remain there.
Okay.
Don't remain there. And Kela was blind as well. So it's not as if I'm talking about somebody who's able, and for her to have come up with that powerful quote, you understand, tells us that you can't remain there. You have to have a vision. And if your vision says, like your friend now, that her vision is to get into that building, what's she doing to get into the building? When I say what's she doing, the building is the motivation for her. She's going to places, talking to people. Why don't we have ramps? Why don't we have this? Why? See, I always say this thing that the so-called developed worlds that we and third world countries keep on saying are developed, they were not created or made by themselves. It was the citizens. It was one person who just said, there is no ramp for me to get into this building, and it's 100 floors. This is so unfair. My IQ test I did last week was XYZ number higher than all these abled persons, and they're not allowing me go into this building. Why? And the person now starts to make noise and says, hey, the fact that I cannot walk does not mean that my brain is not working. I need to go to the 100th floor. I want to go to get to the 100th floor. Now, I'll use a typical example. So at the program I just attended a couple of days ago, there was a gentleman who had two crutches he had to use, and the stage was a little bit funny. Now, persons who had no disability were like, oh my gosh, I'm wearing heels, or I'm wearing this, I don't want to go up, I don't want to trip. Can I tell you that guy, they were asking him to use the floor. He said no. That he was going to go up the stage. And this was him now with both legs that he's trying to just, use his brain to try and get them to, and at the same time, but he did it. And he got a resounding round of applause. Why? Because what was in his head was the vision. What was that vision? That I'm going to get on that stage.
And I have this feeling that most people who are even people living with disability, they have like extra brains, extra IQs.
Yes, they do. Because like I said, once one aspect closes, the other ones just, quickly pick up. Some people might be watching us now be saying it's easier said than done, because but the truth about it is that I know so many abled human beings that are blind. They have eyes, but they are not seeing opportunities. They have legs, but they are not walking to the opportunities. Do you understand? They have hands, but they are not reaching out for the opportunities. So the truth about it is, us, whether abled or disabled, go back and ask God, what is my purpose on earth? Once you know your purpose, you'd run that race smoothly.
Right. All right. So now then, how do we now actually deal with having buildings without ramps, and at what point, who do we actually have to hold responsible, especially when you go to public places, you go to ministries, department, or agencies, and then they have one staircase, they have lifts, they have elevators, but there are no ramps for people with disability to access.
So I'll still go back to thanking this present administration for one thing, and that is the fact that we said that they're really serious about inclusion, bringing in disabled persons. I feel we should start with the commission, the Disability Commission. Okay. The onus is on them now, because the government has given them a voice. That's the truth. So it's for them to go back to the drawing board, and now start asking themselves, what are the things that can be done for this inclusion we're talking about? A friend of mine just opened up her bakery and whatever, and it was beautiful to see that when she was cutting the tape, the first thing she announced was she showed us the ramp. Yeah. So private sector already are buying into it. You get? So it's now time for the commission to try and talk to the public sector to say, hey, you know what? Inclusion. You need to have seen how excited we were when we saw that ramp. I was like, oh, okay, you're just telling your business, but you thought about this. So I feel that the essay to the president, on disabilities, he's closer to him. So he should now start whispering in his ears that, you know what, these are things that Mr. President needs to be done. We're talking about inclusion. Let's do these things for persons, buildings, the lift. Yes, you can go into the lift, but there have to be maybe sometimes 3-4 stairs to even get into the building, to get into the lift. And like you're saying, there's no ramp. And then also another thing that we need to look at is, for we the citizens as well, there's certain malls that would have signs letting you know that certain parking spaces are, and you will see us going to park there. Exactly. It's wrong. Exactly. You understand? It's wrong. So malls, plazas should try as much as possible to include that as well, to ensure that they have parking spaces, for this for persons living with disabilities.
Great. All right, so now let's go back to talking about eliminating violence against women, and then there are quite a number of them. A lot of people, when you talk about domestic violence or violence against women, the first thing that comes to mind is physical. But then you also talked about words that you say to people. It could be emotional, it could be sexual. I recall having a conversation with a particular woman, and then she told us how when she was married, her husband was constantly raping her in the name of having sex or making love, as couples do. But according to her, she said he enjoys it when she's in pain. That's when he has his enjoyment. So I'd like you to speak to the conscience of people, because like you also stated, it's different for a lot of people. Some people grew up in their mentality is that if he has not hit me to that extent, if he has not pushed me to that extent, or make it look like he was raping me, or if I say no and he says yes, then it means because he's my husband and he has paid my dowry, it means he has every right to do it. So how do you now speak to such people that an abuse is an abuse, and when it's not consensual, when sex is not consensual, that is an abuse?
So now this is dicey in the sense that a lot of times people really don't communicate, and it's a problem when you don't communicate. Now this man in question, now what he's doing, I'm not saying is right, but it's something he's lived with for a while. If you ask the lady, maybe he had been doing it while they were dating, and she allowed it because at that time she wanted to get married, and maybe somewhere in her head she thought that he will change. From the very beginning, as she started noticing those signs, that's when she has opened up communication. What if
those signs were not there?
Now that they're married, she needs to ask him to go for help. It's a problem. She's allowed it once, she's allowed it twice, 3 times, 4 times. To him, he feels she's just, this thing, Annabelle, when men say, when you're toasting a woman and she says, no. And then you go again, and then she's smiling and she's saying, no. And then you go the 3rd time, again, she smiles again and she goes, no. And then the 4th time you go, and then she says, yes. Sometimes some men feel that when the woman is doing that, no. It means she's just, being
conquerors again.
From the very first time he did it, and she noticed that, hey, this is a little bit violent for me. Now, it's a sexual act. There's a form of sexuality called the BDSM. For some persons, that is their own sexual orientation. So for somebody whose orientation is that way, Annabelle, he doesn't see it as violence, because that's his preference. So they did not have that conversation for her to understand that, baby girl, your bobo is BDSM. Are you game? If you're not game, you tell your guy, I'm not game. I can't do it. And you move. Communication is really key. Now, for the man whose sexual preference now is this BDSM, that wants the violence, wants the guy, if she's already telling you this is not me, it's not her too. And this brings us back to when we talked about empathy. It's something you like. It's something she doesn't like.
But then what if you didn't know that he is BDSM?
No, what's the woman now? Is the man not even talking about? The man knows. He knows he is. But sometimes that she's not.
But you remember that sometimes people, especially in marriage, people just learn fantasy, just learn it out of the blues.
I'm not too sure somebody who is in all that kind of whether I just learned it out of the blues. It was somewhere inside. Or she knew. You can't just wake up and be violent. You get it's violence is not something you wake up and you learn. It's something that it's innate. It's inside of the person. The person just grows it. We all have violent streaks. Maybe I should even start from that. Every single human being has a violent streak in them. The thing is that my dominant character or person? Do you understand? So for instance, now when you watch movies where you're talking about how serial killers started, majority of them, if you go back to their childhood, they will tell you that the way they killed animals was in a very violent manner. So we all have that violent streak, especially when you're defending yourself. Now the problem or the issue now becomes when you realize that you're like, oh no, I don't like that. I don't like the way I squashed that mosquito on the wall. even though the fact that I did not like the fact that the mosquito was disturbing my sleep. And then there's somebody else that'll tell you that, oh my gosh, I'm proud of the way I slapped that mosquito, or I'm proud of the way I carried that rat up and I smashed it on the...
Maybe you need to check again.
Do you get?
Okay.
So when you're with that kind of a person, you're looking at a person like, dude, it's just a flipping rat. Yes, we know it's not nice, but why would you smash a rat? Do you understand in that manner? So what I was just saying was that the guy knows he has the tendency. Whether he knew it before marriage or he's now knowing it during marriage, he knows it now. She doesn't like it. She doesn't want it. If he's an empathetic being, he needs to have a conversation with her. Baby girl, this is how I've realized I'm beginning to like this thing. Oh, I know you don't like it. See, conversation is a very difficult thing to have between persons. That's the truth. In marriage, there's a thin line between rape with married couples. You know that some women rape their husbands. But people will be like, rape husband, what are you talking about? I don't know, there's some women that the husband has been begging her since, let me sleep, she's nothing. The day she now wants money from him, she'll just be every... So men don't talk a lot.
So you say that's rape?
No, I'm not saying it's rape.
Okay.
But at that point in time, in that man feels used.
Really?
Do you get? He feels used. But if in reverse were what happened, she'll be like, he doesn't even rate me. All he does is just came, dumped me there and left. But she wanted money. She wanted something. She came, dumped him there and... But the truth about it is, once we can say just... There's no age where you cannot just go back and genuinely learn to love yourself so that you can love others. Honestly, there is no age. The only thing is once you just accept and you're like, hey, I'm not doing right. So in this case now, if the day the man accepts that he's not doing right, trust me, Annabelle, he'll take measures to change for her.
Okay, so now what do you now do in situations where they'll now tell, where you because you just keep hearing that, okay, now you guys are married, so at least you need to bend a little, probably the woman needs to bend a little, the man needs to bend a little, understand each other, communicate, understand. If he says, okay, now I used to like love making this way, but now I think we should spice it up a little and then put either the BDSM and put other things into it. And then she says, it's not my thing, I don't want it. And then when she complains, the next thing you hear is, but at least he's your husband, you need to adjust so that you can fit in. So what do you say to such people who hear that? Let's be peaceful, let's be no.
If it's something she does not believe in, if it's something she cannot do. Okay, first and foremost, the BDSM thing you were talking about, is it normal? Is it natural? If it's normal, if it's natural, then she learns to do it. Let me give you something that I would say is normal and natural. A man comes home and tells his wife that in a day, I want to make love to you 5 times. That's a natural thing, and I've been waiting. Okay. I'm waiting. That's natural because that's the way the man's body, he's not taking anything, but that's the way the man's body works. And it goes also for women. There's some women who are their libido is really high, and they could be saying, men, in a day, 5 times a day. That's a natural phenomenon. That's something that is natural for the woman, is natural for the man. In that kind of situation, the man or the woman can decide to say, okay, babes, me, my own body can do twice a day. But because you like 5, can we come to a compromise? Yeah. That's something normal where you tell the woman or the man to compromise. But if you're talking about, like we're talking about the violent BDSM thing, you're talking about where the guy is saying maybe he's choking her or he's doing something, or it's not normal. It's not normal to her. So it'd be unfair for anybody to come and tell her that because she's married to a man, what is not normal to her. Do you understand? She should bend. No. He also, why can't he just also be abnormal to be normal? So what I mean by be abnormal to be normal, this thing he thinks is normal. Let him make it abnormal to himself so that he's normal for her. For everyone. What is love? You cannot say you love somebody and you're causing that person hurt. It's not possible. Now I know some people do some very weird things where some women have the mind and they'll tell the man, Oga, if you cannot listen to me, go and do it outside. But don't come to me. A lot of relationships are here nowadays are toying in that line. Oh, you want this is you, bad. This madness, all these things. Okay. So once you come back home to me, go. But at the end of the day, is that marriage? So I heard a new word they call it is open. We're in an open relationship. We're in an open relationship. Do your thing, I do my thing.
Oh, yeah.
So someone once asked me this question and said, who actually said people must get married? Because when we look at things now, we're now going back to free for all. If you are telling me, okay, you must do this thing, but you must do it, but don't do it on me, go out. But like, coming back to what we're really talking about, I feel it's unfair for anybody to force either a man or a woman and say because you're married to somebody, something you don't believe in, something you know, the world knows is not normal, and say because you're married to this person, you must do it. I feel that's unfair. I genuinely feel it's unfair.
That's an abuse.
Yes, I feel it's unfair because if the person has come out to you once, twice, and has said, I can't do it, I don't like it, I don't know how to do it, I don't even... Okay, imagine if it's someone who is quite religious. I'm not using now the word spiritual. Religious in the sense where that she knows or he knows that according to I shouldn't... That's unfair to that person. Because there's a higher being than you that person is respecting by saying according to his or her religious beliefs, they can't do this. And you are now claiming you love him or her and you're now making them go against their religious beliefs. Do you get?
That's why you get to hear that, but we are also the same religious. Do you think I don't love God also?
Well, true, you're saying, which is true. But like I've always said, and I'll keep on always saying, love, self-love.
Okay.
There's this where it said, love your neighbor as yourself. For God to tell me to love my neighbor as myself, what does it mean? It means that if I cannot take pain, right? Why would I want to give Annabelle pain? If I'm saying that Annabelle, if I can't take stress, why would I want to stress Annabelle? If I can't stay under the sun for 24 hours, why would I ask Annabelle to go and stay under the sun? If I can't take Eba with palm oil, why would I give Annabelle Eba with palm oil? So once every one of us can understand that, love your neighbor as you would love yourself, I think a lot of the things we do that inflicts violence will come to a bare minimum.
Great. All right, Clay, there's more we can learn and unbundle from this conversation with Esesua Adeyemi, and we'll definitely get right into it after this quick break. Join us again. Fiance, yes, then tells her that I like my wives as housewives, so I like them at home and just taking care of our children. But she said if she has to stay that way, it will definitely affect her mental health. So, and that's now a problem to her. She's seeing it as it's a problem. But what was what she told me? A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do because we got to get married, and that's it. So, but I felt it was an abuse, but she didn't see it as an abuse. So if we've been talking about 16 days of activism, how we can eliminate violence against women, and people like that are not seeing that as an abuse, where did we go wrong?
As in, so still going back to self-love. You're not beating her at home now as a husband, but you've just not allowed her reach her potential. And so she's sitting down there every day. Maybe she and her best friend had this plan or dream, will do this, and every day maybe she's having child number 1, the best friend has done, and maybe that best friend is even going and having her own child number 1 too as well. She's having child number 2, the best friend has gone to that next level with child number 2 as well, and then she's still here but has had 1, has had 2, is still here. Maybe they get up here, she's somewhere here with maybe even 5 kids or something. Annabelle, let's be honest now, her mental health, that's the word. So
definitely,
honestly, I feel that the world has tried for women. That's the truth. The world has genuinely tried for women to the point that we
have the world really tried for women.
Oh, let me tell you why I would say this. Every month there's something we celebrate to celebrate the woman. True or false?
True.
How many things do we do to celebrate the man? Okay, I'll give you a typical example. You're with somebody, you start talking, the relationship, the vibes are really going really well, and then all of a sudden the person just disappears.
And they decide to ghost you.
They just ghost. And then when they eventually now come back and you're having conversations, and it's not like they've sat down to plan it. I've heard a lot of women say the same thing. It's the same words that always come out. I was going through a particular phase. I did not want you to see me vulnerable. I did not know how I was going to talk to you about it. I did not know. And unfortunately, as they are not knowing how to, they destroyed that prospective relationship they wanted to start.
Most definitely.
So you're having more men depressed.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you actually just joined us, you've missed out on a whole lot, but then you can still join in the conversation. My guest on the show this morning is Esesua Adeyemi, and we've been talking about eliminating violence against women, and not only women, but women and girls, and especially women living with disability. Okay, before we went on that break, we've actually talked about quite a number of interesting things, and then you've also told us on how we can eliminate violence against women. So now, we know that today they've started, or they would kickstart the 16 days activism to end violence against women, on which after the 16th day, that's going to be on the 10th of November, it's going to be Human Rights Day. So how much would you actually say that this 16 days activism that we've been having since the UN General Assembly adopted this ending this day, how much would you say that we have done in terms of educating, sensitizing people that violence against women is violence against women, because it still kept happening? If you want to get married, I remember someone telling me that she is more of a career person and she loves to go to school and all, but then her intended, that's her husband that she was going to, or her hubby, or probably her fiance, yes, then tells her that I like my wives as housewives, so I like them at home and just taking care of our children. But she said if she has to stay that way, it will definitely affect her mental health. So, and that's now a problem to her. She's seen it as it's a problem. But what was what she told me? A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do, because we got to get married, and that's it. So, but I felt it was an abuse, but she didn't see it as an abuse. So if we've been talking about 16 days of activism, how we can eliminate violence against women, and people like that are not seeing that as an abuse, where did we go wrong?
As in, so still going back to self-love. Still going back to self-love. Because so self-love is beyond love. Right? Self-love is knowing you. Identifying your person. Who am I? So, for instance, now Esesua Adeyemi, yes. Who am I? What are my goals? What are my objectives? Where do I see myself? To an extent, she knows herself, but she doesn't own herself.
Oh,
because if she owned herself, she will know that there are 100,000 plus men out there,
but they always say that
have married her.
They always say that there are more men than women.
That one is just fallacy. All of us can say whatever we want to say. Trust me, Annabelle. If she knew herself well or owned herself, she would have just told that guy bye. Why am I saying that? Because there are men out there who love independent women. That's just the truth. So you can't wake up and say you this is you, and now say because another person says you have to be there. Where's the love now? I remember when I talked about this self-love thing, we keep on talking about it's empathy. If this man cannot be empathetic enough to put himself in her shoes, to understand that this is the career that this person I want to spend the rest of my life with wants to do, the most important thing is just have a communication, just discuss. Okay, this is what I like. These are my fears. Why I don't like career-driven women. Maybe for some people they feel that the woman becomes too heady. She's no longer submissive. She's not around to take care of the children. Or there are women who have built careers and have also built homes. And that's the truth.
And then for some person they feel like, oh, okay, so she's now in the eyes of all her bosses and the public.
So you have the conversation. It's win-win. Okay, my love, I love you so much that I would actually allow you build a career. But these are my fears. And then the other person says, okay, you know what? I appreciate the fact that you're allowing me go on. These are your fears. I would assure you that these fears are not the reasons why I want to build my own career. If you're having this kind of conversations, and maybe at the end of the day, you now see that, okay, we cannot really, both of you should be able to be mature enough to say, guys, we tried it, it didn't work. and move our separate ways. Let me tell you what's going to happen in this marriage now. It's not I'm not cursing. I'm not trying to be naysay. No. I'm just trying to tell you that at the end of the day, she's still going to be miserable. So all the one she was doing, a girl's going to do what a girl's going to do. She's going to be miserable. There's going to be a lot of fighting in that home. And at the end of the day, she may eventually leave him.
So what's the point?
Because she is not able to reach her full potential of what she had discovered to be herself, and she just let it go because she's saying a girl's going to do. No, it's not about a girl's going to do what a girl's going to do. What's going to make me happy as Esesua? What's going to make you happy as Annabelle? That at the same time will make whoever my partner is also happy. So if you cannot follow me to say, okay, build a career with me, then you can't make me happy. I can't make you happy. So the truth about it is we need to get to that level where, as women, just like you said, we need to identify the things that are violent to us as persons.
Okay.
I want to go to school. You're abusing me by not allowing me to go and get an education. Whereas if I was in my parents' home, they would have allowed me to go to school. You came, you professed all sorts of love. You told my parents, promised them all sorts of things. I'm now married to you. It's wrong. It's abuse. It's actually abuse because that girl has the right to what? Education. So it's abuse. So we should stop looking at it like we're saying about only when somebody comes and is beating you. That's not only the kind of abuse that becomes a little bit violent. You know, most of these things at the end of the day makes people go into depression.
Most definitely.
So you're not beating her at home now as a husband, but you've just not allowed her reach her full potential. And so she's sitting down there every day. Maybe she and her best friend had this plan or dream, we'll do this. And every day, maybe she's having child number 1, the best friend has done. And maybe that best friend is even going and having her own child number 1 too as well. She's having child number 2. The best friend has gone to that next level with child number 2 as well. And then she's still here, but has had 1, has had 2, is still here. Maybe they get up here, she's somewhere here with maybe even 5 kids or something. Annabelle, let's be honest now, her mental health, that's the word. So
definitely.
Honestly, I feel that the world has tried for women. That's the truth. The world has genuinely tried for women to the point that we
have the world really tried for women.
Oh, let me tell you why I would say this. Every month there's something we celebrate to celebrate the woman. True or false?
True.
How many things do we do to celebrate the man? Annabelle, in the past 1 year, I have been opportune to meet a lot of broken men. It's sad. It's really, really sad. A lot of broken men. And when they speak to you, they tell you one thing. You know, society has made it in such a way that as a man, I can't tell you my problems. Society has made it in such a way that as a man, even if I don't have, I must look for and make sure I provide. Society has made it in such a way that as a man, if I'm feeling hurt, I cannot cry. So we've done so much bringing the woman out.
With little attention to the men.
So what is happening now is we're just burying the man. That Annabelle is so sad now that so many women want to be in relationships. Okay, I'll give you a typical example. You're with somebody, you start talking, the relationship, the vibes are really going really well, and then all of a sudden the person just disappears.
And they decide to ghost you.
They just ghost. And then when they eventually now come back and you're having conversations, and it's not like they've sat down to plan it. I've heard a lot of women say the same thing. It's the same words that always come out. I was going through a particular phase. I did not want you to see me vulnerable. I did not know how I was going to talk to you about it. I did not know. And unfortunately, as they are not knowing how to, they've destroyed that prospective relationship they wanted to start.
Most definitely.
So you're having more men depressed. You're having more men suicidal. You're having more men not having the mental capacity or capability to even go out to work, because there's so much they're putting in their heads that they can't even think again. So that's why I would say that the world has done a whole lot for the woman. If a lot of things are not being eradicated, Annabelle, we as women are the ones not living up to it, and that's the truth. Because there's so much that I have seen that the world has done for me as a woman. There's the voice the world has given. And I know before, as a woman, how many degrees could a woman even have?
Most definitely.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
How many women could be professors in the past? Or doctors. Or even become a minister, or whether minister, or even become a president of a country. How many women? So the world has done so much for us women. And in doing so much for us women, as women, we're neglecting our sons. So when I say neglecting our sons, we're putting so much emphasis on our girl children and saying, you can do this, you must do this, you should be this, and forgetting that our boys need the same love. Now, I thank God I'm not in that category, because like I told you, I grew up with a family where my mom made all of us love ourselves, whether you're male, you're female, there was no disparity, you all do the same chores. So I've raised my boys to know that, come, if you're sad, talk to mama from a very young age. If my boys want to cry, I tell them cry. They are men now. I tell them if you need to cry, cry. Just the difference is.
Are you not be tagged as a crybaby?
No. So how will you not be tagged as a crybaby when you're very careful on whose shoulders you're crying upon?
Ah, okay.
So you have to be careful too. It's not everybody's shoulder as a man you go and cry upon. No, you have to be careful too as well. Because there's some people you cry upon their shoulders, they will use that cry against you. But as a man, if you need to cry, cry. If you need to say you're hurt to somebody, say it. You can't bottle up a lot of things. So the world has done so much for women, and I feel that indirectly we're now beginning to neglect the man, and so the boy child quietly is now the one suffering. Women that are watching should know that the world has done so much for us, and stop just like this your friend did. You want to be happy. You are saying last you won't marry. But the world has fought for you to say, as a woman, there's no shame in having a career and having a child. There is no shame in being a president and having a husband. Okay, the Queen of England, may her soul rest in peace, was queen for how many years? Her husband always stood how many steps behind her? Did he die? No. Did she rule England well? Yes. So, honestly, I feel women, we should stop victimizing, you understand, ourselves. We should go back to the Beijing conference and see the growth and see what the world has helped us build and start leveraging on these things. And as we're leveraging on them, let's also please try to remember that we still have the boy child.
Most definitely. All right, our time is fast spent, like we could just actually go on and on. But then before we let you go, even as we're commemorating the International Day to End Violence Against Women, so we'd like to get your last word, not only to women, but also to women and girls, to also that woman who is living with disability, who is looking at watching us at the moment, and then to the men and the boys.
So to the women and to the girls, I would still always preach to so all the categories, I'll still preach the self-love.
Okay.
Love yourself. There is no age that you'd attain. If you've not been doing it, you can learn it. To learn to love yourself. One of the key ways of loving yourself is being positively selfish.
Oh, positively selfish.
Positively selfish. Okay. And I'll quickly just explain what I mean by being positively selfish. So let's say, for instance, now I knew I was coming to the show at 11. And I'm the kind of person who, in the past, a friend would have said, Cece, you know what, can you just help me do X, Y, Z, whatever, and I'm this go-to person that would always like to get it done. But I know that I have a show to be with Annabelle for 11. And I know that if I go and do this thing for this person, there's the possibility that I may run late. At that point, I have to be positively selfish.
Oh, okay.
I have a program. If I help you out now, so far it's not life-threatening, I can come back and help you, right? I would go for my show and then come back and help you.
All right.
But me or before, I would go and help and then run late for the show. And then maybe the person you've helped might not even show any gratitude. You'll not be angry and you'll be like, but I did this for
exactly.
So we have to learn, when you're loving yourself, to be positively selfish.
Okay.
Look good for yourself, not for anybody. When you look good, when you feel good from within, when you yourself, you're telling yourself, I want to look good today for myself. I want to feel good for myself.
Not because you want to break necks.
No, for myself. So if nobody breaks that neck, or if nobody looks at you, you're happy. That, you know what, I saw those shoes, I loved the shoes, I wore them, I looked at my legs, they looked nice, I know I look nice today, and you go out. Because you know what, Annabelle, there'll be some people who would say mean things. The shoe is fine, you're looking fine, but they'll tell you that, see your stomach is showing, but there's nothing. And then what I would love to say also is empathy.
Okay.
Let us all try to learn to be empathetic. Once you can show empathy, which is putting yourself in the shoes of the other person, whether you're the one suffering, whether you're the one inflicting the suffering on the person, you would sit back and you ask myself, if I was the one inflicting, would I be happy? Okay, this person that is inflicting on me, now I'm putting myself in his shoes as he's inflicting this thing on me. Am I happy that he's doing it? Why am I giving him or her the opportunity to do it? And for men as well, for the men who have the power, having power and inflicting violence doesn't show you have power. It just makes the person a weak man. But a strong man is a man who knows that he has the power to inflict whatever he wanted to, but just walks away.
Ah, great. Thank you so much, Esesua. It's always a pleasure having these discussions with you.
Same here, same here. Thank you very much, Annabelle, for having me.
Great. All right, viewers, that's where we end this conversation for today. It has been really enlightening, exciting, entertaining, educating, and informative. And I'm sure that you must have been rightly educated, entertained, and informed as we have been chatting with Esesua Adeyemi, who is the Director Core of Business Development at Core Academy. And it's been a wonderful time here on The Conversation as we are commemorating International Day to End Violence or Eliminate Violence Against Women. And we decided to touch on both the women living with a disability and also to men. I'm sure you must have been rightly educated. I will see you next time. Keep watching The Conversation because you never know who my next guest will be or what I will be speaking of next. Until I come your way again. From the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. Good morning. God bless you and yours. And God bless Nigeria.